I have been at this job now with the Army for about 14 and a half months. The entire staff we have now there has been there for a maximum of 2.5 years. And then one singular person before that was here for the pilot. So a total of 3.5 years. At minimum, one person on this project has been located on site right here. And in that time, today is the first day that we have real internet. It took roughly 3.5 years to get fully functioning internet. It's what we've had up until now, just little AT&T hotspot pucks, which work fine-ish for one person, but when you have 6-7 people trying to use them at the same time, you basically do not have internet for most of the day. Rest of the Army, if you are actually someone important, you get one of the LAN cables, just green line, you just connect into the wall, connect to your computer, you have access immediately, you're all golden. 3.5 years, and we finally just got those. And not even for the whole office, though, just for 3 of us. So now there's a couple people who still don't have that, but they at least have the hotspot and only 2 people on it. So that's how my day's going, is we are just super fucking excited about having access to internet. But we're here. We are in the trenches working with the Army. And on that, I just made a beautiful segue of coaches need to have been in the trenches and or actively in the trenches, which just means that in order to be an effective coach, you have to have done the sport in some capacity, preferably at a higher level if you can. That's not required, but you at least have to have done the sport in some capacity. Now, what that looks like is very varied. So you have people like, I can't even name a high-level coach right now off the top of my head. Bill Belichick played. A couple other like very high-level coaches were like pretty good at football. Most of them were probably like bench players, but they have all done that at a high level. Now you look at that, a bunch of coaches below them have probably done it at the college level, some of them the high school. There's a large amount of players though, the coaches, who haven't done the sport at all, minus like grade school. I would say still that's pretty okay. But the biggest thing is you need to have some experience of what your athletes are going to go through, whether it be at any level. Obviously a little bit higher, a little bit better, because you can understand more of the actual demands and mental stimulus that's going on them. But in some way, shape, or form, a coach needs to be on the flip side of them. We can tell you all we want about what to think, what to do, all these things, but if we have not actually lived it, then it is much harder to actually have advice that is going to be worthwhile, because we have never even been in that situation. So for myself, I've competed at 2 U25 nationals. I have blown out my entire shoulder in between those 2. Came back from injury, didn't do great. Trying to make a comeback right now, and I'm already, I think, 20 or 30 kilos over my best U25 total. So I went from in the trenches to completely cut off, injured, stopped completely, to then doing just a bunch of random shit, non-Olympic weightlifting, now easing my way back in. And what I can confidently say is I enjoy coaching weightlifting, and I am much more creative and much better at my programming when I am doing Olympic weightlifting, just simply because I'm being exposed to it a shit ton more. I obviously coach Olympic weightlifting remotely. In my day-to-day with my Army people, the group I just had that was doing competition was doing weightlifting, but not really to any high degree. And really no one else here in the Army is doing any Olympic weightlifting. So all the weightlifting I was exposed to was purely online. So I was not having really a lot of it in my day-to-day at all. So going back into it and actually doing Olympic weightlifting, I was becoming, again, having a lot more exposure to it, and therefore just having more practice of just thinking through it and being a lot more eyes on. And as a result of that, my coaching, I feel like I've at least been a little bit more invested into it. Not that I'm not invested, but I can feel myself thinking through things a lot more, coming up with different variations, being just a little bit more creative. So it's vitally important that either, preferably both, if you have an in-person with your athletes on a day-to-day so you can visually see exactly what's going on and see how it's impacting them, but also having done the sport yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be a high level, but there is now a shit ton of coaches out there, like purely online coaches, who have, one, never coached a person, have never coached anyone in person, and the only thing that they have done to make them a coach is they have made themselves look good, and now they're just trying to copy what they did and mass market it to everyone, which isn't really going to work. So you need to have done more than just get yourself good, but that is going to be a very good starting point. I'm going to trust a guy who's 300 pounds, Mr. Olympia, to get me jacked much more than a 120-pound dude off Instagram, just purely because, hey, he's done it himself. He probably knows something. So if you can then be in the trenches, but then also have that practice, work in person, get all those fucking reps in, you are going to be much better off, and you're going to see that those coaches are going to be probably a much better fit for you in the long run. So making sure when you're looking for a coach, or if you are a coach yourself, have some idea what's going on. Like, you got to compete at least one national level meets. Like, qualifying for the Arnold, not that fucking hard. Go compete at that. Like, honestly, like, it's fairly easy. If you train for a little bit, I think I qualified after less than 6 months, 4 months, 6 months, something like that. I snatched 100 kilos after 6 months. And I think that snatch at 100 did qualify me. So yeah, 6 months of like very aggressive hard training, and boom, you're qualified. Go compete at national meet. At least feel what it's like, because national meet's very, very, very different from a local meet. Local meet's super laid back. You don't really have to manage the clock. You don't really have to worry about everyone else. It's a fun environment where no one's trying to steal the clock. You're working with other coaches like, hey, you need some more time? Cool, I'll give you some more time. Play around with the clock, help each other out. National meets are going to be very different, especially if you're in one of the higher sessions and you're competing for a medal. A lot more strategy, a lot less friendly, and you're trying to fuck some people over just to get your athlete the best placing possible. So get some experience, be in the trenches, and if you can, I would suggest still keep Olympic weightlifting in some regard for really as long as you can, as long as you enjoy it. Because again, then if you get to the point where you've done it for a while, you start to hate it, you're going to hate coaching it, but you have to be in the trenches at least a little bit for at least a period, compete at a few big meets, and keep doing it. And then you will be better off as a coach in the long run. Like I have discovered, I am a better coach when I have it in.